Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh Everything, and welcome back to another discussion video. So this time, as you guys can tell by the title, we will be going over, I've mentioned it a few times in previous videos, some deleted tweets, or since then they have been deleted, that were made by an animator who worked on Arc 5, who even worked a little bit on Yu-Gi-Oh VRains, called Mako Abe. Mako Abe, again, a female animator who belonged to Studio Gallop, who worked for Studio Gallop, and worked on the Arc 5 anime. The only credit that she has on Arc 5 is key animation for episode 7, but she did work behind the scenes animating through the entirety of Arc 5, and even worked on the very first episode of Yu-Gi-Oh VRains. But since then, there have been no well, I shouldn't say no sightings, that sounds like she was, kidnapped or something really sinister like that, but there have been no appearances made by Mako Abe in Yu-Gi-Oh! And maybe these tweets are a little prelude to why that's the case. It's very interesting because these tweets were made while Arc 5 was coming to an end. And this is one of my favorite things to talk about, the, potential turmoil. We don't really know if that's actually going on behind the scenes of Studio Gallop, but with Yu-Gi-Oh VRains having, a lot of recap issues. If you're unaware, Yu-Gi-Oh VRains has had about 4 or 5 recap episodes. Let me actually quickly count in my head. I believe it's 4 recaps so far. We're only 46 episodes, or 44 episodes, excuse me, through Yu-Gi-Oh VRains. Already 4 recaps. That's definitely a sign. The director, I've done videos on that if you want to watch. The director of VRains has tweeted multiple times. He's apologized, I think, 3 times now. So clearly there are issues going on, whether it's the budget, whether it's just the management. Who really knows? It's very tough to point fingers anywhere, but there's a lot of people who felt the ending of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 was very lackluster, and I'm not here to bash the ending or anything. I'm not here to say the ending was terrible. I'm just saying there were a decent amount of people, and there's some people that loved the ending, but there was a good amount of people that felt very, very upset by the Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 ending. Maybe these tweets can kind of show you the issues that were happening. There's even some people that will take it as far as saying the end of Arc 5 was so bad and it was received so bad that they cut fundings for Studio Gallop, and that's why VRains is struggling. I don't think that's the case. I think this is an issue that affected Arc 5 just as much as it's affecting Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains. I don't think Arc 5's performance affected Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains in any way personally, but again, we just don't know. I don't think that, but there are people that do believe that. Anyway, the tweets were deleted very quickly after they were made, again, December 2016, during the Zark duel, and since then the account has been gone. We don't know if she was forced to close the account. I imagine you probably can't tweet about things like that, so we don't know if she got in trouble for it. But recently, the tweets were unfindable. Recently they resurfaced, and I had someone, thankfully, very appreciative, translate these tweets, and I'll show you the translated tweets on screen. Here is what Mako Abe, an animator during the Zark duel, tweeted. "It's okay to check with me that I can finish before the year ends, but can you give me the model sheets faster than that? What am I supposed to do? Draw from imagination?" Someone replied to her, and then she replied, "In the end, it was faster to just draw it and have it fixed later." She even used the upset, the upset, Lenny, and I know it's not Lenny face, but, the disinterested face that you can make on your keyboard with hyphens. But this is business as usual, ... quotation mark. So, whoa, there's a lot to take there. And again, this is someone who worked on Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, who even worked on the first episode of VRains, and then most likely quit. The way I interpret it is she decided to stay with VRains to see if things would get better, and she immediately found out that after the first episode, things were not going to get better, and that's why she departed. That's truly what I believe happened, and things clearly did not get better with VRains with the recaps and such. First of all, there's a lot to dissect here. So they want her to finish before the year ends. These tweets were made, by the way, December 26th. So they told her to finish some kind of drawings, whether it was, aesthetic background settings or characters or monster designs, before December 31st, which is, again, 5 days, and she clearly has no idea what she's supposed to draw because she has not received the model sheets. Now, the model sheets can refer to anything. They can refer to the background settings, they can refer to characters, they can refer to monsters. Again, it's very broad what model sheets can refer to. And then someone tweeted to her and she wrote, "In the end, it was faster to draw it and have it be fixed later. This is business as usual." That's I think the most important thing to tell from this tweet, that this was not the first time during her Arc 5 run where the model sheets took forever to get to her. She just drew something with no guidance of how her uppers wanted it to be drawn, and then her uppers came to her and said, nah, you know what, this doesn't look good. We want you to fix it a little bit. Here's what you want. Here's what you have to draw. You have to draw this by tomorrow. And then what she basically drew in the first place was a waste of time. And that can get very frustrating. And the first thing that tells me that was an ongoing issue with Arc 5, probably not just for her, but probably for a lot of the animators, this is business as usual. That's literally what she tweeted. Secondly, you don't make tweets like this, throwing backlash and calling out the company you work for, unless this is an ongoing issue. This is not like a one-time thing where she took to Twitter and vented her issue. This was clearly something that was happening over and over and over. I really think she was hoping it would get better with VRains. After episode 1, she learned that it was not going to get better. That's why she departed. That's all theory. Again, there's no proof that that is the case of what happened. That's just personally what I believed. I reached out to a few people in the community who are very, very knowledgeable on behind-the-scenes stuff. They all asked to remain anonymous. I will copy and paste all the speculation that they had in their group chat on Twitter when they were discussing this, if you want to read it for yourself. But I will take some highlights from this and read it to you now. So, Person 1, the implication from these tweets is that there's a bottleneck somewhere else in the pipeline. People used it to jump to conclusions to blame Kamishiro or Ono, the writer and director respectively, but it could literally be anything. My first assumption is that Mako Abe was blaming the production assistant, double-checking the deadline without getting her materials on time, but why she wasn't getting those materials on time is anyone's guess. Speculating from hindsight, it could be that whatever is plaguing VRains had some sort of overlap with Arc 5, which is what I believe, but there's no way we would have known that in December 2016. For all we know, she could have been talking about VRains, though I guess if they were animating it all the way back in December 2016, it wouldn't be having production issues. And then if we just fast forward to the bottom, and again, I really do recommend you read all this because it's all very, very interesting. Person 2, could have been new monsters. Yeah, it could be that actually, which is Konami's fault. The need for new monster designs would come from Konami and their push to promote the real-life card game. That's the only thing that makes sense given the timing of the tweet and the usual production schedule. It couldn't be about VRains or Zark. And then Person 2 wrote, it still could be about VRains if they were trying to get a head start on the pilot. Person 3, I suppose it could be about VRains, but maybe not the first episode. Remember how we didn't get a promo video for VRains until April 2017, which was 4 months after the fact. And that's the other thing. I don't think this has anything to do with VRains, because I really do believe if they were getting that big of a jump start on Yu-Gi-Oh VRains, if they were writing Yu-Gi-Oh VRains back in December of 2016, where they barely showed anything at Jump Festa, they literally showed us 2 very early production promotion images, which is what Person 3 goes on to say, then Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains would most likely not be having the recap issues that they are having. If they were literally 16 episodes ahead of date, they would not be writing recaps every 8 episodes to fill gaps. It just does not make any sense. So I really do not believe, and she was only on the very first episode of VRains, so I do not believe this has anything to do with VRains. I just believe the same issue that was, plaguing Arc 5 at the end ended up plaguing Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains, and that's why at least Arc 5 didn't have the recap issues. But again, the things that were done at the ending were very suspect. I really just did not love the ending. I still liked Arc 5 as a show, but there were just a lot of things in the ending that seemed very strange that they did, which, again, some people enjoyed, but personally, I think a majority of people probably did not really like the ending. And this could have been why, because they really didn't know what they wanted to do. And Person 3 goes on, it really could be simply a frustrated and overworked Studio Gallop animator venting about being nagged about not completing animation for episodes that were aired in February/March 2017, which was, the post-Zark episodes, due to not getting her SETI, which is, again, the model sheets, early enough from higher-ups. We've all felt that kind of stress. There's just no way to know the true context of the animator's tweet. So, again, if you want to read through this whole thing, I will link it down below. Really appreciate all 3 of these people for helping me out. They all asked to remain anonymous, but trust me, take my word for it, they do know what they're talking about. They all are very they've been in the community for a long time, longer than me, honestly, and they do know a lot of behind the scenes information. So what do I think about this? Of course, I want to hear from you guys because I think this is very interesting. Clearly, there were issues while working on Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, just as there is with Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains. Whether that came from Dark Side of Dimensions, because the budget was short, who really knows? Another person, it's no coincidence that Mako Abe left after episode 1 of VRains, but someone else who left that a lot of people didn't know who left was Ebina. And Ebina was a director who was maybe the best director they had, the animation director, one of the best animators they had, right up there with No Gilbo, who worked on Yu-Gi-Oh, I think since like Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds. He had been part of Yu-Gi-Oh for so long, and he left to work on the Fate anime series, I believe it was. And so he's someone who left. Another person who left, again, Mako Abe left, and I believe there was another very key member who left, another key animator who left, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they all left after Arc 5, because I'm sure Mako Abe was not the only animator that was struggling with this. Where was this issue? Was it because they didn't exactly know what they wanted to do for the last 8 episodes? When I initially saw this tweet, way back, a long time ago when I was, still following Arc 5 and doing Arc 5 reviews daily, when Arc 5 was still airing, I immediately thought it had to do with Zark. I immediately thought, and that's why the way we got Zark drawn, he looked like more Yuya than anyone else, even though he should have been a mix of all 4 U-boys, and we never saw Zark in his actual human form, which that Zark was brilliantly drawn. We never saw Rei in her human form either, and I thought maybe there was an issue there, and maybe that's why Zark looked so weird at first when he first took on Edo and Sora and turned into like a demon human in episode 135, I believe it was, or 136. I thought that's what it was about because they had no idea how to draw Zark, but this tweet happened a few weeks after the Zark duel began. But again, remember that Mako Abe also tweets, this is business as usual, so this could have happened for characters, this could have happened for the last 50 episodes of Arc 5. This kind of issue where they had no idea what to draw, they drew things, and then they were told, you know what, draw something else, we don't really like that. And they were just drawing things based off imagination, as Mako Abe tweeted back in December of 2016. So clearly, issues behind the scenes of Arc 5, as we could have guessed. Same kind of issues that are plaguing Yu-Gi-Oh VRains. I don't think that Arc 5's negative reception of the ending by a majority of people had anything to do with Yu-Gi-Oh VRains production issues. I really do believe that this is something that has been plaguing the studio for so long. The actual reasoning of why it's happening, whether it's Kamashiro's fault, whether it was Ono's fault, whether it was someone else's fault, whether it was Konami's fault, it's all speculation. We will have no idea unless someone decides to come out and literally say it. The director of VRains seemed very close. He literally tweeted something along the lines of, I want to tell you guys more, but unfortunately I don't think my higher-ups would let me do that. So there could be someone who comes forward in an interview soon and tells us what really is happening, but and when that happens, of course, I'll try to be the first to, bring you guys a video, because I do love discussing this, and I do love speculating this, but whether this is the case or not, we really don't know. It's definitely sad to see, because Yu-Gi-Oh VRains, I've enjoyed it a lot, but it has been plagued, and a lot of people have definitely negatively hit it for those recap episodes. And Arc 5 I loved, and I wished, the ending was maybe a little different, as I'm sure a lot of people do, but, we got what we got, and whether it's because of these kind of issues behind the scenes, or whether it was just very ambitious writing, I don't know, and it's very tough to say, but that's pretty much it. 2 very interesting tweets that have since been deleted, and some really cool insight from some really knowledgeable people. But of course, I want to hear from you guys. First of all, I hope you really enjoyed the video. I hope the video was interesting. I hope the video was kind of new for you guys. There were a lot of people who, whenever I mentioned these tweets, were like, oh, well, where's the proof? And I couldn't find them, so it was literally like, I really don't have proof, and I know that kind of seems sketchy, but I'm telling you from my memories, I remember reading these tweets. They were gone for like a year until they recently resurfaced. So thank you to the translators, and thank you for everyone who, rediscovered these tweets. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I really, especially about this topic, cannot wait to talk to you all down below about what you think was going on behind the scenes of Arc 5, and if you think that's still an issue with VRains, and if you think it's an issue that we'll ever know about, or whatever you want to talk about regarding this topic. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.